Alrighty, hey guys, welcome. Good to see you, Luke and Mixmaster and Paul and Jeff. Thanks for coming out and hanging out. Let me push the button there. Oh my. Alright, we'll take that down a little bit. Good evening, folks. Who all? Let's see. Yep, got everybody. Okay, cool. And for the most part, everything is functional tonight. What a concept. What a concept. Okay, cool. So, yeah. It's been an interesting, how many days till Knobcon? You know, I haven't put the countdown on the calendar yet. And is that mic clipping a little bit? I don't know. I'm not sure. Let me take a quick look somewhere. There'll be a brief drop in the stream. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Wrong button. It's a button hidden from view. And I need to look at something real quick. Okay, yep, mic is a little bit hot. So let's do something about that real quick. There. That should be better. All right. So I don't know how many days till Knobcon, Luke. But it's coming up. It's coming up quick. I'm leaving to drive out on Thursday, the 4th of September. And yes, less than 1,000, but more than 1,000 miles. So it's going to be really a long drive, but you know, what the heck. It's going to save me a chunk of change to do it that way. So, and I'll get to stop somewhere on the way back and take in the sights. I'm planning to stop at Sweetwater on the way back, just to look and say that I've seen the place. So, and in answer, Mixmaster, to your question, yes, that is an Arturia Polybrute 6-voice polyphonic morphing analog synthesizer. And that will be the primary topic of our conversation tonight. Yes, sweet selfie, exactly. I'll probably shoot some video while I'm there. Everybody does. You know, you have to kind of have to do that. Although, you know, I'm going to be more interested in hopefully video and whatnot that I capture at Knobcon itself. You know, it's going to be a kind of a dangerous trip, I'm sure, but you know, what the heck, only live once. So let's see, let's go ahead and hit what's in the jam, and then we'll cycle back to whatever news is going on, if there is any, and then we'll get into the primary topic of tonight's discussion, which is the Polybrute. So let's see, starting out with what's in the jam. You're hearing in the background now the usual, well, I don't say the usual, but we'll jump over to the DAW real quick, and I've got my my Zyklop, little Zyklop sequence running, you know, doing the thing. I think this is the same one that I had last week, just with some minor tweaks here and there. So that's what's going in the background. And then let's see, jump over here. We've got an instance of Pigments, and this is doing something kind of interesting. Pigments tonight keeps insisting on opening over there. So tonight I've got Pigments following something else. And come on. Well, we don't need that open. There we go. So this is one of my slightly modified version of one of my own patches, the Bell Shimmer. So let's see, it's doing this. Actually, I have to change. Right now it's following MIDI from something else, and here we go. So it's basically following an arpeggiator, and it's but it's also getting its own pitch shift going on right here, and that is basically being automated to be either at the root or up 3 scale divisions, and then for a short period up 2 scale divisions before it goes back to the root. And so what I did there was I took that, I've got that following following what's going on the Polybrute, which is this arpeggio. So the notes are being played in the Polybrute sequence, but they're being long and held. The arpeggio itself is being generated in the Polybrute. Let's spin that around and take it while it's going. What the heck? So the arpeggio itself is being generated here, and it's spitting its notes back out, and that's being routed into pigments. So pigments follows, but does the shift where it does a shift where it'll jump up the third, up to the third, then down to the fifth, second, and then back to the root, so that the two of them sound together. And let's roll some of that filter off on this guy. And then so during the jam, I was basically playing the filters on the Polybrute and letting, except when I was doing the little bit of lead line that I did early in the jam. So you can hear the Polybrute under pigments there. And basically, I've got things routed into both filters, so I can play one against the other. And so that way you get to hear one go in different directions from the other sometimes. And then the final thing that was in the jam tonight for a little bit, and of course the camera's looking over here now, so I can't spin it back around, but if I go to this, over my shoulder back there is the Pro 800 that was doing. And this mic is real sensitive. It picks up every time I hit a key. So shouldn't hit them too hard. So anyway, that's what was in the jam. I'm going to go ahead and take the Pro 800 out, take pigments out for now. And let's see. I'm going to real quick jump over to the DAW, and I'm going to stop the Polybrute sequence so that it stops playing the arpeggios. There. All right. So let's see. Trying to think if there's anything else exciting. Really, I took the Pro 800 over to Paul's over the weekend for our monthly get-together jam, and that was a good time as always. And you know, Paul had gone ahead and picked up a couple of things that are on my possibles list. He picked up a Behringer cat and the whatever the devil that other thing is that I want. and he picked up a K2, which is not on my list. He didn't pick up on a Pro 1 either. So, yeah, the Wasp, and so the Wasp. I'll tell you what, the Wasp is an interesting beast. It's a great. I think it's great for drones and other things too. But it's got that wicked filter, and so that is an interesting thing. I like interesting things that do and sound different from some of the things that I've already got, and um, so one of those is on my list. And I'd like to have I think a Pro 1 would complement the Pro 800 really well. So anyway, I'll fiddle around with those. They were all three great for jamming. They sure were, and they sounded great, Paul. Definitely fun. Oh, other news, minor thing. I will be getting sometime in the next little bit. A Modwave is going to be hardware is going to be coming in. I've already got the software, but the Modwave hardware will be coming already in a tall dog case, so it'll all get mounted up, and that gasp, that sort of completes the collection, with the exception possibly of maybe a King Korg Neo down the road, if I can find one at a reasonable price. Most of the new price is too high for that instrument, and most of the used prices are as well, as far as I'm concerned. But if I can find one in a an appropriate price range, I could be convinced to pick it up, because I think it's got some fun sound, and it's not a horrible synth. It's as Luke often says, all synths are good synths. So I think it'd be an interesting addition, and would absolutely complete the set. But I'm not in any hurry for that. Anyway, getting the Modwave is going to necessitate, just like dogs, exactly. So the collection Mixmaster is the Pi Korgs. So Wave State, Op6, Modwave, and Multipoly are the collection. And then the other Pi Korg that everyone seems to forget, like I mentioned, or not really forget, but kind of look kind of sideways at, is the King Korg Neo. All of those are based on the same architecture under the hood. They've got some sort of Raspberry Pi compute module as the brain, and there's an interface board that lets it talk to the outside world, and then whatever control panel Korg puts together to make it all work. And I'm constantly impressed and amazed, as I've said numerous times, about what Korg manages to do with small microprocessor. And so I'm looking at those because I want I want to be able to do some live performance with them, and just doing it on software on a stage doesn't cut it for me. The other thing is, another thing, like the that guy, like the Multipoly, the Modwave has, and I'm waiting for the camera to move. Is it there? It's there. Like the Multipoly, the Modwave has got the track pad for the Chaos stuff. Karma is still a thing in Korglandia now that the Kronos 3 is back. The Kronos is back. Karma does live in the Kronos, Paul. But that's like the only thing that's got Karma in it any longer. Hybrids or plugins on MPCs. Can you? I know some of the Native Instruments or the Native Instruments plugins now work on MPC. Can any of the Korg software run? The Korg VSTs run on MPC is the question. As far as Karma is a Karma is a unique control and modulation. Yeah, it's K algorithmic something crazy, but it's modulation on steroids. It does some other things too, but that's the biggest bit of it. That runs on there was the originally came out on the Korg Karma, which was a synth that was dedicated to it. Actually, an amazing synthesizer. Paul's got one, it's just wild. It goes in it can go in every direction at once. So it's a really neat algorithmic kind of automation modulation system. It has to run. It's kind of sort of it's kind of sort of hardware tied. Let's put it that way. The only place I've ever really seen it implemented is on a Korg. And really only on two. I've only ever seen it on the Karma itself and then on the Kronos. So I don't know. It does. I think there was Karma software available at one point. I don't know if it still exists or not. And if it does, it would be maybe a VST. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I fooled with it a little bit on the Kronos. And like I said, I really wanted a Chromos back in the day, or a Karma back in the day when they first came out. So if you've got touchscreen, I mean, you can do some pretty cool things. Again, depending on what all you can map, but I'm pretty sure you can map all kinds of things into that on the MPCX anyway. So you could do some stuff kind of like what you can do on the multi-poly or the Modwave for sure, with a trackpad on a touchscreen. That would, because it works well on stuff with iPads. So I'm sure you can make something work there. The trick with a lot of plugins, though, is that they're not really set up for trackpad use, because they're expecting you to land the pointer on the pad, click, and then drag. And a lot of touchscreens don't necessarily do that automatically. So that may or may not work well depending on how the MPC touchscreens are set up. I don't know. I've never used one. But yeah, it could be fun to play with for sure. And if you can map, groups of parameters to the corners of the virtual touchpad and move between them, you can get all kinds of neat things going on. But again, I don't know how the MPCs handle that, honestly. So I looked at MPCs, I guess 3 years ago, whenever it was they came out with the original MPC keys. And yeah, see if the touchpad is like, or a joystick kind of operation is kind of integral to some of that kind of stuff. Trying to control 4 corners with knobs at the same time is while you're doing other things is problematic. We don't have enough arms and digits to do that, unfortunately. Yeah. There were things that my problem with it was that at the time, anyway, there were no other plugins other than what Akai had, or had worked with other vendors on to make work with it, the Air stuff, I guess. So I kind of moved on to other things. But so anyway, I think that is all the news that's fit to print. For those keeping score, the close down of my company and my retirement is probably going to be pushed off 1 month, just because of a couple of things that popped back up that hopefully I can take care of quickly. So we'll see. Hopefully I can get all that stuff closed down in the time that I need to. Yeah, almost there. It's getting close. So looking forward. I'm looking forward to it in some ways, and and then I'm terrified. As I said a couple weeks ago, I'm terrified as well. But yep, I'm going to retire from my day gig, which will give me more time to make music and music videos and stuff like that, which and other things. I mean, I've got other things to do too. The other thing that's driving this push to the beard and long hair. So yeah. The other thing is driving the timing on this is the increasing attention that my mother is requiring. So I'm at a point that I think I can pull it off, and so we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's move on to the task at hand this evening. I'm going to drive the camera where it belongs for parts of tonight anyway, which is over to the Brute. And while we're waiting, let's see. That guy, yep, it's there. Okay, good. Yeah, kids are expensive, birds are expensive, houses are expensive, cars are expensive, everything's expensive and getting worse. But sometimes we have to draw a line somewhere, and and do the thing. So I'm getting to a point where it's got to happen. So, and some other other stuff. So trying to think if there's anything else. Let's see, we did. I'm going to Knobcon. Got the Modwave incoming. Catch up on the retirement. I think that's about it for newsy stuff. I'm sure. Yeah, synths are well. So anything is going to get worse. Especially here in the States. So maybe I'll just have to move to another country so I can afford more synths. Somewhere where the cost of living is lower and the synths are cheaper. So anyway, we'll see what happens. I don't know. So anyway, let's get to it. We're going to program a patch from scratch tonight on the Polybrute. So let's see. I will. Let's see. I'll just turn it down. Make that go away some. Synths are cheap compared to bassoon. I don't know. Belize is. I want to visit Belize. I want to visit Costa Rica. I have friends in Costa Rica. I don't know anybody in Belize. Other places, and the birds are getting excited about that because it's warm there. Other places that pop up on the list as nice, inexpensive. World secret for synth mules. Other places that are interesting and inexpensive and relatively easy for, thinking selfishly here, relatively easy for Americans to move to are Thailand and Cambodia. But you don't want to be near the border because that's disputed. So you could be you could be a Cambodian one day and the next day you're Thai. You know, but they're fascinating places with very with decent amenities and very low costs of living. All four of those places really. Exactly. Yeah, as Simon was sharing the about the hostilities that are close to him, where I would be looking is further away from the border, Luke, and well, so Jeff, we can talk to Simon, you know, and he'll tell us, um, and um, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of sort of know somebody in Thailand. I love Thai food, so that could be a good match for me. And as I said, I know we have friends in Costa Rica, and I've known people that have lived in Costa Rica for years and years, but moving as the probably one of the easiest places in the world to move to for an American is actually Cambodia, which is very surprising to me. But anyway, that's down the road. I can't deal with. I can't do that. I can't do that yet. Not from a, you know, so much from a financial standpoint, but because I still have to be tied here for a while. And so that's a thing. As elephant rescue in Thailand. Well, that sounds interesting. Um, So, anyway, let's go ahead and get into the topic at hand. We're going to start with a patch from scratch, and I've already saved the one that I was playing earlier. So this is going to be a little tricky to see. I will try and remember to drive the camera where I'm working as I'm talking about things, and I can see the chat out of the corner of my eye. So I should be good there. Let me go. So for Costa Rica and Belize, I know the healthcare is very good. Simon has indicated that healthcare in Thailand is decent. I am told that healthcare in Cambodia is very good. A lot of it depends on where in a country you are. So if you're closer to a city, healthcare and amenities are going to be better. If you're out and about, or if you're out in the rural areas, it may not be as good. So and the other thing is that if you're living closer to certain areas, if you're living closer to more populated areas, there's a better chance that your neighbors will be able to understand and speak English, which is important for me because I unfortunately only speak English. I'm one of those guys, and so I don't I don't know much, and I don't know much about the Philippines. I do know. I used to know a guy who was from the Philippines, and I haven't spoken to him in probably 30 years. But he's he's in a neighboring county here, and honestly, I don't know why they moved here. My not English is also not great. Yeah, I would have a better I have a better time understanding Spanish, I think, than I would an Thai or Cambodian. But I took some French. Hey, Will, good to see you. Long ago, and I can sort of follow some things, but not much. And as far as speaking it and writing it, that's right out. Um, I don't know. Uh, I couldn't get through any German to save my life, except for Volkswagen and Fahrvergnügen. Um, and this show is not sponsored by Volkswagen, so um, that's funny. So anyway, wherever I go, there's going to have to be some semblance of English. And honestly, if you're in if you're in more urban areas of almost every country in the world, you're going to find people that speak English. As I said, it's when you get out into the rural areas that you will have more problems. Hey, Kurt, good to see you. Welcome. So, with all that out of the way, let's look at the Polybrute. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to grab an initialized patch, which is right there. So that's one sawtooth into an open filter, and all the envelopes are set to beep. So let's see. Let me move the mic a little bit here. And this being an analog synth, one thing that will happen is an all analog. Well, I say all analog. It's digitally controlled, but it's an analog synth, and it does not use encoders for its controls. All of the controls are pots. So if I've got something that I'm doing something, when I turn that knob, that one just happened to be in the right place. Usually it will jump. So unless I changed it to do pickup mode, which I might have. So there's your basic saw. And let's go over the structure real quick of how this thing works, because it's a little different. The oscillators are a little different. We got some specialness going on in the filter. Everything else is kind of plain vanilla. But so I'm going to go ahead and hang on, guys. I'm going to take you on a ride, and we're going to go look at the oscillators. And this is almost better than just grabbing a webcam and slinging it around. There we go, get more light on that. And check the focus. Okay, so we got two oscillators here, and they're both similar to one another. I'll try and get a little tighter on that. And, whoops, pan the other way, dummy. There we go. This does not do great slow speed control. Okay, so oscillators. VCO1, pretty much standard oscillator for Arturia. Master Tune. We'll get to this guy in a minute. The wave shape selection is kind of interesting here. It's variable between. Let's turn that way. In this mode, it's variable between a saw over to a triangle. And then you can mix in a pulse, square. And once you've turned this all the way over, you have no control over the saw to triangle. You don't hear it. So this is in kind of an odd way, allows you to mix all three waveforms, or all three wave shapes, with only two knobs instead of three. And then, of course, once you're in a sawtooth, you can vary the pulse width. And that occurs on both oscillators. Oscillator 1 also has what Arturia calls their metallizer. and put that there, which works on the triangle wave. And that's essentially a wave folder or a wave shaper. So that's oscillator 1, and you can sync. You do a 2-to-1 sync, so you can sync, get them synced up. They're kind of not set up for it at the moment, so they'll do weird things. But okay, so looking at oscillator 2, we've got a tune. We've got FM here. The differences are we've got FM and we've got a sub oscillator we can mix in. Other than that, pretty much the same. So. That follows in, these two follow into the mix section, which does levels for the VCOs and also the noise source, and also handles the routing. Let me pan, do that. If I pan right a little bit, there we go. So the mixer has a function where we can route each oscillator to nowhere, at which point there's no sound from it. You can route to filter 1, filter 2, or both. So right now we're routed to filter 2, which is the ladder filter, and behaves in the usual ladder filter manner. So cutoff, we can tilt down to that. Come on, there we go. So cutoff, standard cutoff, resonance, and this will self-resonate. Filter, let's see, the ladder filter also has a distortion circuit. And then we can control its level out to the rest of the world. Positive and negative amount of the envelope for the filter, and we can mix between series and parallel. And in series operation, filter 1 comes first, followed by filter 2. I usually have them in parallel. But every once in a while we'll set them up in series. And I skipped a couple things over in the oscillator section, and we'll move back to those in a minute. But we'll go ahead and finish up on the filters real quick. So the filter 1 is a Steiner-Parker filter. So it's got a little different characteristics. Let's go ahead and put sawtooth into that. And most of the time I don't hear a huge difference. But you can get a little more bite, I guess, out of the Steiner filter. It's a little grittier in some ways. I think it's a good sounding filter, and just subtly different from a ladder. Arturia has also made that a variable state filter, so it'll go from low pass through to high pass. Hey Jack. let's see. I'll give you some more. I just don't want to blow anybody's ears out when the time comes. Okay, so there's the. Is that better, Jack? So the we've got the usual cutoff and resonance, you know, and you can hear there's kind of a bite to that resonance there, you know. And like I say, you can go through low pass into a high pass, and then on to band pass. Of course, with variable resonance. And also within the Steiner filter is the feature that gives it the name, and that's the Arturia brute factor, which, let's see. Again, is another, you know, let's give it some bite kind of thing. And it's another thing that's subtle, but, you know. You can hear, here it's off. It just kind of thickens things up. So that's the Steiner filter. And you've got, in the middle between of them, you've got a master cutoff. This will grab both cutoffs together. This is an encoder. It's one of the few encoders on the beast. And then you've got the amount of key tracking. And did I remember to mention the distortion circuit, overdrive circuit on the ladder filter? Because it does have one. Where the heck did that come from? Okay. I got some envelope cranked in there, weird. So let's see. So it's a nice, one of the things with, okay. One of the things that I like about the Polybrute is that it's got these neat effects, but in so many cases they're so overdone. And what I like about the Polybrute is they're tasteful. So you don't hear a lot here. But it's there, you know? And with the right wave and everything set up, oh, turn the filter up, dummy. There's some interesting, that's one thing I've noticed today. This is the first time I've noticed this in this. There's a fair amount of leakage in this, and I ended up getting some things going that I was like, where is this coming from? Because I got everything turned off, or had everything turned off, and I was still getting sound through things. Like right now, now it won't do it to me, I'm sure. Yeah, now it's not going to do it. Earlier today, I had VCO1 routed into the ladder like I do now, and I was still getting sound through the Steiner. So I must have had something else routed in a way that I wasn't expecting. But every once in a while, I just notice little quirks like that, or come up with something weird like that. And maybe it's as simple as, you know, if you turn key tracking all the way up, you might be able. Let's see, turn that down, turn that down. Sorry. All right, so right now I got, this is filter playing itself. Obviously not tuned. Let's bring up another oscillator to tune it against. Route this up there. Pretty close. So, playing the filter, let's go ahead and turn that down. So, don't know how far, I mean, I know I'm off a little bit, but it's actually not too bad, I didn't think. So, the filters, you know, are playable. Let's go ahead and jump back over a couple things I purposely ran past over here in the oscillator and control section. So I want to go back to that. And again, sorry about the jumping. I don't have quite as good a control and speed with this overhead camera than I did with the previous one, unfortunately. You can do filter FM, and you can either route oscillator 2 in. Oh, okay. Well, then I'll need to get the little sonar sound going every once, and water going. So you can route oscillator 2 into, and you have that modulate VCF1. So oscillator 2 can modulate the Steiner, or you can take noise, or you can take noise and have that modulate the ladder filter. Like I said, the other camera was slower, or I had better control over, and I may just need to change the protocol on the controller, but I haven't fooled with that because I don't usually do this way. But I would not have enough presets in the camera to do all these different shots. So let's see. Let's move a little bit further left and up. So we've got here modes. Your polyphony mode. It can be in fully polyphonic, 6 voices. You can do unison or mono. They come in handy for some of those modes get switched automatically depending on what other things you're doing. And then your timbrality, you can have so you can have a single sound, which isn't really a single sound. You can layer 2 patches simultaneously, or you can do keyboard splits. Bless you. And then you can assign what the wheel does. It can either be, let's see, it does, the first one says matrix. So you can use, you can control what the wheel does from the modulation matrix. It can be routed straight to cutoff, vibrato, or the LFO1 amplitude. And then now we start getting into some of the really cool stuff. We've got a thing on here called the you thought the sneeze was from your house. Dueling sneezes. It can't be the Modwave, Paul. It hasn't gotten here yet. Um, let's yeah, you can see all this. Sort of. Let's get wide here a little bit. So the Polybrute has this really neat control called Morphe, and so it's a kind of a combination thing. It's a trackpad, and you can move through. Um, the Morphe allows you to move between essentially two patches, or really can use it to modulate any three things actually in the synthesizer. Typically, you use it for morphing, which we'll talk about. But it's also got a Z-axis that you can push down and control something else with that. I will usually use this for morphing because it lets you separate the morph between modulators and oscillators, if that makes sense. So you can morph the tone or the timbrality, or you can morph the modulation, or both. And then also you can do the morph between the A and B layers using the morph knob. Regular, standard, ordinary mod wheel pitch and octave select. And one thing that you can't see well, it actually just starts here, and you won't be able to see it well on this anyway. There's a touch strip. It's about it's almost 2 feet long. I mean, the thing's huge. And I make use of that a lot in live stuff. Okay, so let's see if we can move over. We've got 3 envelope generators, standard ADSR. This one's for the filter, and it can be velocity. The amount of the envelope can be modulated by velocity. Same with amplitude. And then we have a modulation envelope, so a third envelope that you can be freely assigned. It's got a delay feature so that you hit the key and it comes in, the envelope starts sometime later, defined by this slider. There's 3 LFOs, 2 of them pretty standard, with 7 waveforms wave shapes for each one. The first one's phase adjustable, can be synchronized, rate, retrig, the usual retrig options, and LFO2 is the same, except it's got, instead of having a phase control, it's got a fade in, so it will ramp up its function over time. And then the third LFO is an interesting one. It's not really it's more like a repeating 2-stage envelope with shape. It's really the only way I can think to describe it. And it can either kind of sort of bounce. I don't know. Supercell is not one of the LFO envelopes or one of the LFO shapes. We've got LFO shapes are sine, triangle, square, saw, ramp, sample and hold, and random, and kind of like a smooth random. So on this we've got the curve here is focus. It's either a bump or a point and a triangle in the middle. And it can retrigger or not, and so it can single source or single shot. You can monkey with the symmetry of it, and of course the rate, and you can have it sync to LFO1 essentially. All right, Luke, we will chat tomorrow somewhere I'm sure on the Discords. So moving quickly across. So thank you for stopping in. Appreciate it, Luke. Um, the big thing in Polybrute is the matrix section, and this is like a smaller version of the one that's on the matrix brute. Um, but no, LFO3 cannot modulate. Well, okay, yes, it can, and we're gonna let's talk about modulation now. Um, the modulation matrix lets you route almost anything to almost anything else. Let's see if I get that a little sharper. This area serves multiple functions. It's how you select your presets. Um, it's how you do your modulation routing. It's how you control your sequencer, and it has some things to do with morph that I have. Well, this section here gets you into moving bits and pieces of the preset around from one side to the other for controlling the morph. It doesn't really do a whole lot down in here. So let's look at modulation. So if I wanted, for instance, VC, real quick, it's much bigger than the Micro Freak and the expanded one on the Mini Freak for sure, but functionally similar. I have, what's it, 1, 2, 3. So I have 4 screens of 8 destinations, and they're freely assignable as to what's a destination. And we've got the dozen sources. The sources are fixed. So if you wanted to have, for instance, LFO3 modulate the let's see, can it do the waveform? I know it can change the rate and the phase of LFO1 as an example. And to do that, what you do is we want this to go into an open slot, which would be slot 4. So you hold this guy, you hold this, there. You hold the place where you want it to be. Hold 4, for instance, and I turn the knob that I want to change. So let's say we want to change the rate of LFO1. I just turn it. That's now assigned. And then I can come down here to LFO3, find that guy, and turn it up or down, whichever I want it to go. So you can have pretty much anything modulate pretty much anything else. There are some menu divey bits to get to other functions. Let's see, which you do just by grabbing the encoder, and while I'm turning the encoder, you can see it's changing what it can do. So let's see. I don't see LFO. Yeah, I thought you could do that. Let me try just hitting one button. Now, there may be another way to get in there. I've never actually tried to have it modulate the shape of the waveform of the LFO. I know there's other stuff in there you can get to. I just don't remember how to do it. There's a whole This is a whole book section of the manual for this thing. And if you want to take something out, you just turn the amount all the way down to 0, and then punch the button, and that routing is gone. The destination is still available, but that particular route is gone. And like I say, the sequencer, I've only just started fooling with the sequencer. It and I do not yet get along. At the base level, it's kind of easy, but when you start getting to try and do things, you can do. It's six. The sequencer is 6-note polyphonic if you want it to be, and you can control 3 modulation lanes as well, and that's on a per step basis, and it goes up to 64 steps per sequence, which is more than enough. So finishing our pan across the panel, we've got our stereo width, fine-tune volumes, whether or not we're going to use the bypass, whether they're going to be the effects, they'll either be an insert or send mode. I usually have them in send. And let's see, I'm going to move back left a little bit. Three effects. There's a modulation effect, delay, and reverb. And the modulation effects, you've got a chorus, you've got a phaser, and then you've got alternates. And in the alternates, you've got flanger, soft flanger, phaser, phasers, ring modulator, and an ensemble chorus kind of thing. And the really bright stuff is harder to stay in focus compared to the other stuff. So anyway, that's in the modulation section. And then there's another layer with the latest version of firmware. There's another layer of alternate effects, which are all distortions. So there's tape distortion, classic distortion, clip, worn out tape, that kind of stuff. All the effects are digital. That's the digital part of the synth. Delay, you've got typical controls, level, time, regen or feedback, and you've got Bucket Brigade. I say Bucket BB. I always think Barkus Berry. So a bucket brigade delay, ping pong, and then in the alternates here you've got stereo, long, car plus, some other interesting delays, and then down here reverb, level, time, damping, and your choices are for hall, plate, and a few others. Section down here is your motion recorder, which works in conjunction with the sequencer or arpeggiator, and then all your arpeggiation and sequencing controls. We're not going to get into those tonight, but you can do some. I was doing some pretty cool stuff with it last night, but realized it wouldn't work well for play tonight. So I'll see if I can come up with a way to demonstrate that better in the future. So let's go ahead and pull back out. I'll take you for a quick ride to the wider shot of the synth. And yeah, that'll do for the moment. Actually, let me adjust slightly because I want you to be able to see as much of this as possible. So let's do a quick. Ooh, geez, it's quarter after 9, and I'm going to run over. I'm going to run over poor Jeff. Shoot. Let's do a real quick patch because we can do something pretty cool pretty fast with this. Show you a little bit about how much you can do with a single oscillator. Let's do that. So we'll start with oscillator 1, turn it up. It's going to run into the ladder because it's easy to tame quickly. Oh, I still got the that going on. Okay, that should be up. Why do I not have any sound from that? VCO1's turned up. It is... Oh. Yeah, it's not making any noise because I turned the synthesizer down. Oh, no, I didn't. What did I route in a weird way that makes no sense? Did I leave that hanging in a bad spot? Possible. Let's recall the initialized patch. There we go. That'll work. Let's see. Turn that guy down. That's down. Let's see. Real quick. Pads are easy to do fast, and they get interesting real fast. So let's go ahead and do a pad. I'm going to kind of sort of mix the waveform over towards towards a triangle, but not completely. Give it just a touch of the metalizer for texture. Okay, so that's going to be our basic timbre. We'll build the pad amplitude. Give it some slow-ish attack, slowish decay. Bring the sustain down a little bit, and a longish release. So one thing you notice there, if I've got all 6 voices going, and I go to grab another, it can't re-trigger the envelope fast enough because I've got that long release on there. So that's one thing when you have a low amount of polyphony. You can start running into that kind of odd things when the voices try and steal or move around. Fortunately, with a good pad sound, we are in D minor tonight, Jeff. The nice thing is with a good pad, like with this synth anyway, you can build a good pad that only takes a couple notes of polyphony, and sounds real nice. So there's the basic gist of our pad. So let's go ahead, and next I want to introduce some motion in a couple different ways. So we're going to use we'll start with envelopes for that, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll use the filter envelope. I want the filter to open up slow at some rate. So we're going to do basically a similar kind of curve on the filter, so that it opens and closes at different rates. So you heard that voice stealing going on there. Okay, so you hear that change. Now I want to further animate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take LFO1, and I'm going to put LFO1 also into the cutoff of the ladder filter. So to do that, the first thing I need to do is get the ladder filter available to me. That's going to be, I will put that on 4. So we hold the number 4, turn the knob till it lights up, and now I can come down to LFO1, and I'm going to turn that up a little bit to start with. So here it's pretty fast. We're going to slow that way the heck down. And we can actually synchronize that to clock if clock is running. And when you do that, it's in, it's hard to see the display, but it's now showing me the beat divisions. And so I'm going to set this to, let's do four bars for this LFO to cycle. And I'm using the sine wave. So you can hear it now cycling that filter. And while I'm at this, I'm going to go ahead and kick the stereo width up too. Okay, so that filter depth, sweep depth might be a little too deep, so we'll bring that back down a little bit. One thing that I don't have here is an offset. So I'd like to be able to, you know, you have to kind of play the game between balancing your actual cutoff and the range that you're dealing with. So you may end up having to open the filter more than you ordinarily would and then control the motion with the range here. And let's make this go a little faster. So the other thing we can do, we can go ahead and we can take that same LFO and let's route that same LFO to resonance on here. Have to be careful with it, but we'll go ahead and do that. Put that on 5. So now I have my ladder resonance. I'm going to take this same LFO. I'm going to run that backwards, so that as the filter opens up, the resonance turned down a little bit. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and add the other oscillator for some interest. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll run it through. Let's run it through the Steiner filter. So we'll turn it up. I'm going to turn it to be kind of a cross between a saw and a square or pulse. And I'll go ahead and bring the envelope amounts up on both of these. And I'm going to use LFO2 to do the modulations on the Steiner filter. So that's going to jump into 6. We'll just do the cutoff to keep things quick. And so here we go, LFO2. I'm not going to synchronize that one. I'm just going to kind of run it at its own rate. And I'll set the fade in up as well. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take LFO2 and I'm going to spin it into the Steiner cutoff. Let me turn Zyklop down a little bit. So you can hear those double sets of motion going on. Let's go ahead and make this a high pass while we're at that. And I'm going to tune the second oscillator down. And maybe not. We'll just turn the sub up. Which won't work with it being a high pass. So we'll put that back to a low pass. Oh, we need more release time. That's a little better. All right, so the really cool thing, unfortunately we don't have time to do all of this, but the really cool thing about the Polybrute is we've done 1/2 of a patch. So to make this quick, what I'll do, I'll go into Morph, and I'm going to copy what we've done into the second side of the patch. So now, if I turn the Morph control, you don't hear any difference. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to affect some changes. I'm not even going to pay attention to what I'm doing, just so you can hear what happens here. So I'm going to change the cutoffs on both filters. Maybe change the attack and release times, and we'll turn up the FM, or no, sync, to some unknown level. I just did that on the A side, dummy. All right, so we got this new sound. So now if I morph over to the B side, our old patch will come back. And so what this morph control is, it turns every knob on the synthesizer to proportionally as you move through this range or as you go across the morphe. Last thing to do, and I should have done it before I did the change, but we'll go ahead and pop some chorus on this. I'm on the A side. And we'll put some delay on it. Make it a ping pong. And we'll add some reverb. So now if you'll hear, if I move the morph, it's now dry. So we can go ahead and add effects now. Certain things we should not, cannot, or should not change, because they'll get really weird. But we can go ahead and do a different intensity on the mod source, on the chorus. We don't want to change the chorus, or it'll get really weird. And we could do things like change reverb level. And delay level. You don't necessarily, you definitely don't want to change the time, because it'll do the warpy thing. So one thing I'll often do is I'll tap the pad. But you can hear as I go up one side, I'm affecting one set of parameters. You put your hands on your hips, Paul, if you're going to do the time warpy thing. So there you have it. I'm not going to. I'll save this one later. One of the things that I find tricky about the Polybrute is saving patches. There's kind of a three-finger dance that you have to do. We can go ahead and do it real quick. So you have to you hold the save button and hit the cell where you want to put it, and then you can name it. So for lack of anything exciting, we can use the knob and we just spin around till we find numbers, because I'm just going to do 25. I'm not going to do 25 or 6 to 4. But today is... The thing that I always screw up is I hit save as I start doing the wrong thing to move from one to the other. I always screw this up. So we've got to do that to move to the right. So we'll come up to number 5. 25. Oh. 8. It eventually figures out where you were, and then makes sense. Then you hit OK. It needs to know what you want it to be. I'll change this to say pad and say OK. And it is now saved here on this button. So anyway, no, yeah, I'm not going to do 25 or 64. As great a song as that is. So anyway, that's going to do it. Oh, the mic's now here. Move that over here where it belongs. So anyway, patch from scratch. They always take a little longer than I expect, unfortunately. Of course, we did a whole panel tour of the synth too, which didn't help. So anyway, it is now pretty much time for Jeff to do his thing. So I would hope you would all go over and visit Jeff. Thanks for coming, everybody, tonight. Appreciate having you here. And I'm just going to go ahead and I will. You're going to get a Polybrute at one point. You've got a matrix brute, man. There's some ways that I think so just give me 1 minute. There's one boat that I think Arturia missed on the Polybrute that they nailed on the matrix brute, and that is quite simply on the matrix brute, this whole panel can tilt up. And in certain situations, like to see this, I have to lean in over it a lot of times. And with the matrix brute, you can tilt it up, even if it's just that much. You know, it's enough to see the panel better. So that's one thing that I think they could. One thing I think they could have done a lot better, or done better on this. I understand that it adds in production, it adds to complexity and cost and all those things, but you know, it's just a little quality of life thing that you know, definitely would make this a little more pleasant to use. But that said, this is right up there amongst my favorite synths ever. One of those things you'll probably have to pry from my cold dead hands. So anyway, thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate it. You all have a great night, and I will catch you all, I think, next week, if not before. So thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. Have a good one. Go see Jeff's stream now.